Hi,
Hello.
I'm Beverly Phillips. I'm one of the volunteers here. I started shortly after COVID, so I've been here several years. Coming in, doing things very similar to what you guys have been doing here, which is, getting boxes of stuff and sorting through and seeing what it was. I've always loved history, but my profession was nursing, so nothing to do with history. But I came here and I started sorting through those boxes and, of course, finding all kinds of cool stuff. And when I first came, we had a collection called the Pain Collection. And there were just tons and tons and tons of pieces of paper that we were sorting through. And when I was sorting, there were a lot of personal letters, and one of the things that I noticed were some letters that were military, and the dates on them were the early 1940s. And so the history lover in me went, World War II. And so I started opening them up and looking at them and noticing that they were from the same man to the same woman. And they were love letters. And so we found a lot, and we kept them all together, and I got to read a few. Joe took them to USC Upstate, right? The students there, and they transcribed them, and that was one big project for them one year. So that's kind of how this all started. After, you know what, I'm just going to talk. Okay, so I started loving the letters, and of course we finished the Pain Collection, and we went on and found many other collections. And today I want to start with you guys showing you a letter. And everybody's going to get a letter. It's the same letter. And we're going to read it. And then I'm going to let you guys, we're going to talk about it. And I've got plenty. I got enough for everybody to have one. Everybody got one? Okay. All right. Who wants to try to read it?
I see, my dear brother.
Right.
I wanted. I'm not sure what.
Okay, let's look at the date. What's the date? 1863. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what were the dates of the Civil War? Anybody know? 1860. 61 to 65. Okay. So this was Civil War period, right? I went ahead and transcribed this letter, and y'all can read along with me. It says, My dear brother, I wanted to write to you yesterday, but really could not find the time. I suppose you will want to know what I was so busy about. Well, when I came into school, I found that the children did not know a single lesson, and almost all of them had to be got. After being here about a half an hour, the clock struck 12, which made one look up, and the hand was pointing to 1. I knew then that someone had been troubling it. I told them, Susie and Presley, they should both stay after school, as when I asked who had been disturbing the clock, Susie pointed to Press, and Press pointed to Susie. It seemed as though Susie had suggested, and Press had carried it into execution. They had only stayed a little over half an hour when the bell rang for dinner, so I had to let them go, telling them that another time dinner would not be free for them. After dinner, I had a piece of work which I was very anxious to finish, and when I was done, Paul, Ma, and I went over to see the Burneys. There was a young man there, Mr. James Burney, who had inquired after you. All right, turn the page and look at that next page. Now, why in the world would she have done that? Anybody got any ideas?
Is it transfer from where the pages were touching?
No.
I think because paper is expensive.
Exactly. Paper was expensive and there was a shortage of it, and she was trying to get a longer letter onto the same stationery. So she wrote on top of each other. All right. So let me go back a sentence. There was a young man there named Mr. James Burney who had inquired after you, said he went to school with you at Emily, I think that's what that said, in Asheville. They had a very nice house, better, I think, than any house I have seen since I have been up here. I was going to write you last night, but I was so sleepy, it was as much as I could do to keep my eyes open enough to undress and get into bed. Anybody see? Can you tell where I am? Yes. It's a mess, isn't it? Paul got 6 young wild turkeys. He is trying to raise them to improve his breed. Presley, Primus, and John went out yesterday morning and caught them. They tried to catch the old turkey but did not succeed. Last week, we had quite a turnout in our quiet establishment while Paul was away. On Thursday, we had dinner company, 2 ladies from Alabama, Miss Washington and Miss Russell. Now let me give you our bill of fare. Ham boiled fowl, greens, pears, roge, R-O-G-E is what I got. I think that's red, but I'm not sure. I tried to Google that word and I couldn't figure out what it was. It says roge plain and gravy, peas cow. I did Google that one and found it. That's black-eyed peas.
Cow peas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cow peas.
They used to feed them to the cows before, what was it? Was it the Revolution? No, Civil War.
Civil War. Yeah. There you go. How about that? Sweet potatoes, and of course strawberries with cream milk, sugar, walnuts, and ground nuts. I think ground nuts were probably peanuts because they grow in the ground. I wish you could have been here to enjoy it with us. We had a very pleasant day. Mr. Russell has to run in the blockade to get some machinery. That evening after coming home, I went to the drawing room to get my work. And on turning around, who should I see but Edward, stretched out on the sofa fast asleep. Aunt Susie said she had been hunting for him everywhere. I called and she brought a lamp, followed by all the children of the Negroes in the house. And though I sat down and played the piano just as loud as I was able, and Ma held the lamp before his eyes, he continued to repose in the lap of, and I assume it's something like slumber, but I couldn't figure out that word. This was too much for the spectators, so there was a tremendous roar, which aroused his lordship to the sense of the situation, and he got up and commenced a hang-dang march from the room, which only Edward knows how to perform, attended by shouts of laughter from the children and the servants. I have been planting geraniums all the morning, some which Mr. Dukes had sent to me, and I wanted to get through before I came to school. I did not ring the bell, so press has gone off, no one knows where, and from prior experience, I know he will be scarce until dinner time. I received your letter last night. We are sorry to hear that you have not received the barrel yet, for even when you do get it, Now, most of the things will be spoiled. I'll join in love to David and yourself, your affectionate sister. So, what you think?
I was just reading something about the cow peas and the peanuts the other day.
When you read that, or when I would read letters like this, I would start wondering about who those people were. And you've got to remember, this is one letter, and we have letter after letter after letter after letter. And so you hear these names mentioned over and over and over again. And the personalities that you saw even just from this one letter of Susie and Presley messing with the clock to try to change the time of day, and Presley runs off, and so after working on this and others like it, I wondered who the people were. I wanted to know who Susie was and who Presley was and who is she writing to and who's writing it, because this one doesn't have signatures. There's no name. There it says, my dear brother and your affectionate sister. Who's that? So what I discovered was when you see many of these, sometimes she does sign it. And I found that this particular person, the sister, is Emma Julia Smith. Her brother was a Civil War soldier, and his name was Townsend Smith. And they called him Townie. And I have a piece of paper telling me more about him. All right. Daniel Townsend Smith was born on August the 9th, 1842 on Edisto Island in South Carolina to Thomas Peter Smith and Theodora Elizabeth Smith, the fifth daughter of Captain Daniel Townsend. There's his name. His first name is Townsend, or what they call him, and his wife, and I can't say her name, Ebenezer, something like that. Anyway, Smith attended South Carolina College before serving as a member of the Washington Light Artillery from Charleston during the Civil War. He earned an A.B. from Furman University in 1967 and then graduated from the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Greenville in 1869. He taught at Furman School of Ancient Languages from 1871 to 1881 in the School of English Language and Literature. So he was a Furman professor. So from this we know he graduated, he got out of the service, he didn't die in service. That's something that unfortunately I also saw a lot of when I was doing the Civil War letters, is that they would suddenly stop. And then you go, uh-oh, what happened? And I started researching those guys, and they would have died. Honestly, I haven't found one yet that died of a wound. They died of, they were either prisoners and died of some kind of disease, or they died in the field of some kind of disease, cholera, something like that. But this guy made it out, and he's obviously hearing from his sister. I would love it if we had some of his letters back home, but I haven't found one of those yet. That might be in all that I gave you. But so far, it's only been letters from his mother, this sister Julia, and his baby sister Susie has written him quite a few letters. So those are the ones I've seen so far. But because I read the letters, I go, well, I want to know who these people are. I want to know more than what I can see in the letters, because they develop personalities and I want to know them. So I started then taking the people and building a family tree. And so I went to Ancestry, and that's how I got this information I just read to you about Daniel Townsend, was in Ancestry. And I can find census there. So from the census, I can look, I can see his parents' names, and I can see all the children. And then you start seeing, like this is one, and you can see that Presley, the little guy that ran away, and you see Susie, and you also see Emma, I think her name is, Emma Julia, who is the one that's writing the letter. So these are his siblings and his parents, and you can kind of, from the different censuses, you can look and you can build the family, and then you know where they were living, who they were, and who the relatives are. They talk about Aunt Susie. I still haven't figured out who Edward was that was sleeping on the couch. I think it would be really funny if he was one of the servants. Don't you think that would be funny? But I don't know that. But the Aunt Susie lived with them. She was obviously the mother's sister, because they're about the same age, and she has the last name of Townsend. So she must have lived with them. So that's Aunt Susie. But I use Ancestry to help me figure out these families. So that's basically what I do for the museum, is I transcribe letters and I build family trees. And hopefully one day, as we grow and as we have more students to help us sort through and transcribe all these letters, we can build family trees. And when people come to our museum that are from this area or have tracked different ancestors to this area, we can offer to show them letters and to let them see the actual originals for themselves. Anybody got any questions?
About how long did it take you to transcribe these letters?
That one took me about 2 hours. What I do in the beginning, when we first started doing it, we literally had a magnifying glass and we were doing this number, trying to see stuff. And none of us, well, now we have a younger one, but back then, most of us were older and our eyes aren't good, and we were struggling to see this stuff, especially when it's written like this letter is a perfect example where they write on top of each other. So it would take all day, to do one letter. Plus, a lot of them have been, I don't know if you guys have experienced it yet, but a lot of them have started deteriorating, and so there's chunks missing.
Me and a baker who's not here today, we did, I think it was the Elrod letters.
Yeah.
So many of them, and we were just trying to find the dates and like who sent them and who to, and that took so long just finding those. So. Yeah,
the Elrod letters were in an old house. Did Joe tell you about the Elrod family? And so a lot of them had started deteriorating because they hadn't been protected. They're not as old, and there's a lot of pictures that go with those too, which is cool when you can find a picture and know that this is who wrote that letter. Yeah, I really like that. But hopefully we can continue to do this. Now I have Mary to help me do some transcribing, I hope, and we can start seeing these stories evolve. And it's really fun to look at those letters. Let me see if I told you everything I wanted. Go ahead.
You said they wrote on top like that because paper was expensive. Why wouldn't they write on the back?
That was the back.
Oh,
on the original, that was the back. What I found a lot of was, it's like an 11 by 14 piece of paper that's folded in half, and they do front, back, front, back. So, but that particular one was just a small piece of paper. Why would you think that the letters would be important during the Civil War? Why would they be important to us to preserve?
They fill in context.
Yeah, they tell us what was happening. You know, a lot of times when you study history in school, and Joe might shoot me for this, but it can be a little humdrum, you know, and to see these letters and read them and have people come to life and see life and hear about what they were eating. I mean, you had heard of peas cow or cow's pea or whatever it was, but I'd never heard of that before. So that kind of thing is interesting. And like you said, the paper was expensive. And what about literacy? You know, this particular family, the father was a merchant, and they were pretty well off. But most families weren't. And most children couldn't write. So if we've got a letter then that gives us a story, then they're kind of writing for everybody, don't you think? You know, all the families that couldn't write, that were unable to write. And one thing I noticed when I was looking through the letters and trying to find the one to bring today was there were a lot that were written that were not written as well. I mean, the words were hard to figure out what they were trying to say. They were misspelled. You know, forget punctuation. You know, it's just, and a lot of times, you know, if there was a person that would write, that could write, they would write for their friends and their buddies. They would write to the buddy's mother so that she would know that they were okay. They were still okay. We did have a few that talked about different battles. We had Manassas. That young man was, he was a Tarrant, wasn't he? Joe, the one that we found early on, I think he was a Tarrant and he died. He died, but he was at Manassas. So you see a lot of history in these letters, but you see people, which is what I like. I like people and faces. And I really was hoping that when I went in to look at Townsend, I would find a face for him, but unfortunately I didn't. But I did find a letter from Susie, who is the little sister that was messing with the clock, where she had had scarlet fever and been really, really sick, and it talked about her father had stayed up with her all night, and Presley had gone to get the doctor, and there were other children that had been sick that I assume it's one of the family members, but other children had been sick. They talk about their servants. There was one letter where they were talking about a man that had burned a barn in this community, and it was a black man. And they were, at the point of the letter, they were looking for him. I don't know if they ever found him. But there's a lot about their servants. There's a lot, I think they called her Mamie or Mommy, or it was a name like that, where they talk about her sending her love to Master Towney. So you see the families develop, and it's fun. It's fun. Any other questions? see if I got anything else. Anybody know what a pender is? P-I-N-D-E-R? It's peanuts. This is a letter, an old letter that I did a while back, but it's 1863, and it's from Susie, and it's to Townie, and it's at Christmas time. It's right after Christmas, and she says, "How did you spend your Christmas? Did you spend it happy? Did you hang your stocking up? I did, and got an apple, some penders, and a piece of sweet cornbread." So, very sweet.
Definitely gives a good look at the culture of the time.
It does. It does. Okay. No questions? All right. We're done, Joe.